This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, my country is of thee. Sweet land, liberty of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. And so let freedom ring. From the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring. From the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania, let freedom ring. From the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado, let freedom ring. From the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring. And when this happens, when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Hey everybody, welcome to Rise Up, a storytelling tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose words ring true very much so today. I'm Stephanie Rogers, the producer of Story Jam in Chicago, and this year's tribute to Dr. King is a little bit special because we've partnered with 1000 Cuts and Melanin Stories Matter, both from Seattle. All of our storytellers and musicians are national. You can find out all about them at storyjamshow.com, and you'll hear from my co-producers, Melissa Reeves and Ahmad Corner, in just a little bit. There will be a 5-minute intermission, and there will be a talk back after the show. Tonight, we are spotlighting BIPOC voices, particularly Black voices. And we who are here as allies know that there is so much work for us to do in the fight for social and racial justice. And we're very honored and very proud to be here to do a little bit of that work tonight. And we're glad you're here. Some of the proceeds from tonight's show go to the Ally League in Seattle. They sponsor and support Black-owned businesses. And we have our own sponsor tonight, Royal Bank of Canada. Thank you for your sponsorship. We're so happy you're here once again. Thank you for coming to Rise Up, and please sit back and enjoy the show.
Have you ever had the experience of feeling within you the kind of tension that those Christians must have felt as they were being led down the road in those old TV movies with angry mobs cheering on both sides, saying, "Feed them to the lions, feed them to the lions"? I had that experience, and it was on August 5th, 1966. I was 15 years old. And it was the day on which the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King had come to Chicago to march through Marquette Park, a neighborhood on Chicago's South Side, to fight against the policies of redlining or unfair housing policies. My parents had agreed to let me go, and when I woke up that morning, I was nervous. I didn't know what was going to happen. I had seen televised footage of people being beaten with billy clubs by the police who were there to serve and protect, of people from the jeering crowds throwing bottles and rocks and dogs chasing them, so many terrible things. And I knew that this could be my fate, but I also knew that it was simply my turn, even at 15, to do what I could to stand up for justice. So we took a small bus. We got to Marquette Park, and as we got closer, we're hearing the loud angry sounds of the mob sounded just like those angry mobs in those TV movies. And we were afraid to get off the bus, but we did. And as we walked down the road, and there was a woman who came over to me, and she looked at me and she started cursing me and called me everything but a child of God. And then her 9-year-old son, I guess, had come over. He began to curse me too. I was stunned. I couldn't even move for a while. But then, as one of the nuns came to get me and we continued forward, I started hearing the sound of the crowd in front of me singing, "We shall overcome, we shall overcome someday." And I knew that as I heard that sound begin to drown out the sounds of that angry crowd on both sides of the road, that reminded me of those same sounds that I heard as people stormed the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. just a few days ago. They were reflections of each other. The hatred was the same. But I knew that in some way we had at least begun to overcome because there were enough of us who were committed and convinced and ready to stand up for the right for justice. And I wrote a song to commemorate those people of the civil rights movement that basically reminds us that it's time to stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up. Thank you.
I dove into the world of case management and social work immediately after college. I had been there, grew up in Chicago, grew up in poverty, single parent household. I knew what it meant to be Black in a beast like Chicago. And so I wanted to come back and help young men like me kind of get a leg up in society. Little did I know that case management and social work is almost all data entry. I spent what felt like weeks at a time entering in case note after case note and recording every little interaction instead of just spending the time with the young people that I cared about. So when any kind of client would come in through the door to my tiny, dusty, cramped office with a little chair shoved in the corner for folks to sit, it was a breath of fresh air. And when Jay came in, it was like a whole nother thing. Jay is this tall, strong Black man, uh, huge smile, huge eyes, positive energy. He would always come in, no matter how terrible his day was, he'd come in and he would just make us all smile, you know? That was the kind of guy Jay is. And so when when he came in today, I saw him out of the corner of my eye and I was already smiling to greet him. But he wasn't smiling back. In fact, he wasn't looking at me at all. He didn't say, "Hey, Nate, what's up? Hey, Nate, stay blessed." He was just standing there. Something was really wrong. I motioned to the chair in the corner for him to sit and gave him some space, and then he dropped it on me. "Nate, I got arrested today." It was like all the air just got sucked out of the room. A lot of folks get arrested. A lot of folks treat it as a normal thing growing up, but for Jay, it meant a whole nother thing. You see, when I had even first met him years ago, shortly after then, he got arrested. He had done what a lot of kids do. He went to a school that had an open door. He grabbed a TV. He grabbed some candy from the shelves, and he brought it back to his house. But when he got there, he felt so bad about the whole thing that he returned everything back, albeit with a couple candy pieces missing. But sure enough, later that night, the cops came knocking to ask what had happened. And Jay did what we teach young people to do. He was honest. He said, "Hey, officers, I know I shouldn't have stolen that stuff. When I grabbed it, though, I felt so bad, so I brought it back. I promise I won't do it again. Just please give me another chance." I'd like to say the officers heard all that and said, "All right, kid, stay out of trouble. Don't do it again." But instead, we began a journey to keep Jay out of prison for 8 years. 8 years. And they set his bond so high because they thought he was such a menace to society that he wasn't even allowed to be out while we awaited his trial. So instead, Every month, I'd assemble what I could in terms of a suit. I'd go to the court. I'd hear the judge laughing with the bailiff about the golf game last Sunday. I'd see the attorneys talking about their, wild Saturdays and what was happening that week. And Jay would be brought in every time in cuffs, but somehow would have the energy to look over his shoulder, find me in the audience, and smile. That same brilliant smile. Because for everyone else in the courtroom, this was normal. This is how the system worked. I was the only one who was horrified. Eventually, after months upon months of pre-trial, the public defender rushed to me and gave me the good news. Jay only was getting 2 years with a felony. Only 2 years. What a great deal. So after missing multiple birthdays, a couple Christmases, and many, many other holidays, Jay was eventually let go. And the first thing he did when he got out was he came to me with a crumpled piece of paper. On that piece of paper was a huge list, all the things he'd been recording while he was in prison, of things he wanted to accomplish once he got out. The first thing on that list was learning how to cut hair. After all he had been through, that was the least we could do. So we tried to make that happen. We'd set him up with a laptop, and he came up to our office every single day and watched YouTube videos nonstop on the new cutting hairstyles and learning how to do the craft. Eventually, I actually had scrambled up enough little pieces and asked for a couple favors to get him a bag of barbering tools. When I gave it to him, Jay just took his huge arms around me and hugged me, and he cried, which is a hard thing for a black man from the South Side to do. And then he got to work. I can say I was his first customer. When he cut my hair in my cramped office, it wasn't the best cut, but it made him happy. And that was my mission. And soon he started to make a name for himself. He started getting clients around Chicago, and he even nailed a client in the suburbs on that day I saw him. He went to the suburbs, did a house call, and made an amazing cut for this new guy. And this guy gave him a huge tip to reward him. He was beaming when he walked away from the house. But you see, the suburbs of Chicago are different than actual Chicago. You see, the northern suburbs that Jay was walking down had nice houses with nice cars in the parkways, and a lot of folks who knew immediately who didn't belong. The cops were called within 3 minutes and came immediately. They threw him up against the wall, searched him illegally, and then found his bag of barbering tools and insisted that he was using these tools to break into these nice cars of these nice people. They booked him immediately. Jay was interrogated for hour upon hour. They tried to get him to break. They tried to get him to break his story, to plead to something he didn't do. But Jay held strong, despite them dangling parole over him and the threat of him going back to prison. After hours of this, they eventually let him go, with one exception. They had to keep his bag of barbering tools that he was using to break into cars with. So now Jay was in my office, finishing his story, empty-handed, after all the work he put in. I heard that story and I was broken. But I looked at Jay, and somehow he was smiling. And I don't mean a crazed smile, I mean a genuine smile. And I looked at him and I said, Jay, this is a horrible story, man. It's so not right what they did to you. How are you smiling? And he looked up at me and he said, Nate, when I was back there, I thought I was going to die. I'm just happy to be alive, man. I'm so happy to be alive. When I think of Jay's story and young men like him that I worked with for many years, I know that our system continues to do wrong for our young people. Our system is broken. Our system needs to be torn down. And I rise up to make sure that young black men like Jay will eventually never be treated that way again. Our futures are suffering. Our black boys and girls and folks are all suffering. It's time we rise up to change that system. Thank you.
another day. Say hello with a smile, can't stop my drive. With every fiber I breathe in this skin that I'm in. Whoa. I wake up just like you. Pull the blinds up and dream. Go to work, learn something new. The beauty of this world is in me too. They may take my tools, lock me up, but can't cop my style. With every fiber I breathe in this skin that I'm in. That I'm in. Put me in chains and say I got good luck. It's not enough. Other soldiers who fight for us. Let me dream my beautiful dream to breathe. Say hello with a smile, can't stop my drive. Your office is tiny, but the message is mighty. I say hello with a smile, can't stop my drive. With every fiber I breathe in this skin that I'm in. I deserve to breathe in this skin that I'm in. Yeah, yeah,
I loved the feel of my mom's hands combing and braiding my hair, but I was 8 years old and I wanted to go outside and play. My best friends, Linda and Jane, had come to pick me up and promised to wait right outside my apartment till I was ready. But when I went to find them, they were gone. The next time I saw Linda, I asked her, "So, how come you guys left me?" "Well, Jane said we shouldn't wait. She said that you would take forever because your hair is nappy and your mom had to put grease in it." That cut. Linda and Jane are both white. I am black, but it was the first time that our difference made any difference. Well, by the time we got to 7th grade, our little trio had completely lost touch, until about 3 years ago, when I found them both on Facebook. I mean, it was just the occasional like and comments on each other's posts, but then back in June, I got my first direct message from Jane. She wanted to share some of her experiences with racism. Perhaps I could use them in my storytelling. Now, this was just within a month of George Floyd's murder, and I was really sensitive about white folks initiating race conversations with me. But, what an opportunity. So I messaged back, "Remember when you, Linda, and I were supposed to play together? You told her I'd take too long to get ready because my mother had to comb my nappy hair." Her reply, "Oh, I wish little Jane could apologize to little Cynthia." Okay, fair enough. But soon afterwards, she wrote again, "I was worried that I had possibly hurt you over 50 years ago, but I came to the conclusion that you chose to add a possible race component to the situation. What? That cut, again. Jane wrote more to explain herself, but I couldn't bring myself to like any of her posts after that.
My grandfather was the son of a slave and the white man who owned her. Born in the state of Georgia in 1883, Papa, as we called him, was the patriarch of our family. Papa was a big, handsome, strapping man with a voice that rumbled like thunder when he preached or when he was angry. Now, Papa had no formal education, but after he fled the South to Dayton, Ohio, he found work, sent for his family, and started a church called St. Luke Missionary Baptist Church, which is still standing almost 100 years today. Papa had 9 children. Maud was his younger, and she was my mother. I grew up in Papa's church. It's where I learned to sing. And one of my favorite memories is hearing him talking about those days during Jim Crow down south. But it was a miracle I ever knew him. See, Papa and his family and his mother lived together on a farm in Barnesville, Georgia. The neighboring farm is owned by a white family. Now, surprisingly, back then, blacks and whites lived somewhat neighborly to a certain point. They were sharecroppers trying to eke out an existence as farmers in poverty, and they often shared tools or borrowed tools from each other. On this particular day, they got into a disagreement over one of the tools, as neighbors do. But it isn't a big brawl, but it comes to blows when the neighbor calls Papa a nigger, which was typical back then, still typical today. But it triggered a natural response in Papa, and he, bam, hit that man in the mouth. Well, that ended the fight, and both men went back to their fields. Later that day, Papa went home and was telling Grandma Fanny how he stood up to that white boy. That cracker tried to disrespect me, he said with pride. But Grandma Fanny had no pride. She was horrified by this. Son, don't you know what you done? They're gonna kill you. Well, the neighbor was telling his own story to the boys. We're gonna teach that nigger a lesson. Yeah! Woo! Yeah! And that's how it was done. The lynch mob would gather the good old boys, all liquored up. They'd get their guns, their torches, and rope, and set out into the night. They'd go to the house, stand outside with their burning torches, and drag him out while his wife is screaming and his children are crying in terror. They'd beat him, torture him, set the house ablaze, maybe the fields too. Then they'd drag him away to the lynch site, maybe castrate him, string him up to that old tree, hang him, and then set him on fire. Maybe even take some pictures for show. Southern trees bear a strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root. Black bodies swinging in the southern breeze. Strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. Now that was the fate Grandma Fanny knew her son faced, unless she could find some way to stop it. She went to the white man she worked for, but he wouldn't or couldn't help her. All he would say was, "You better get that boy out of here fast." But Grandma Fanny's a resourceful woman. Her greatest personal accomplishment was that she kept all 14 of her surviving children together. They weren't ripped from her breast like all the other mothers' babies were during slavery. And her son was not going to die this night. In the darkness, she sneaks her beloved David away into the night, away from his home, his wife, and his young children. She takes Papa deep into the woods and hides him in a fallen, hollowed-out tree log. And there, encased and hidden away, Papa disappears from the face of the earth. Days go by, a week, and there he stays until she can get the money to send him away up north to safety. "Come out, nigger!" Every night, by the light of the Georgia moon, Granny sneaks out to the hollow log, quietly into the darkness, filled with the fear of being seen and followed. She takes some food to keep him alive. Grandma Fanny has 3 sons who've already fled the South. There's Clifford in New York, Fred in Philadelphia, and John Henry in Ohio. John Henry's money comes first. And that's why Papa moved to Ohio. And that's how, in 1961, I came to be born in Dayton, Ohio, the youngest grandchild of Reverend David Revere, Papa. See, my grandfather was headed to a lynchman's rope that day. But thanks to the dedication and determination of his glorious mother, he survived. The miracle happened. He did not die. Unlike so many others. I am their legacy. I will never forget this story, and I'll never stop telling it, because this is from whence I came. I rise up to claim my part of American history, and through my art, I'll keep making it. Thank you.
They're coming by, don't make a sigh. The Georgia air is hail and blood tonight. What have I done to have to run? Is it a sin to bear the skin I'm in? Rise up. Hold on, I'm crawling out of fire, hiding in the woods, let the heavens hear my heart cry. I've got very little time to fight against the devil, mama, please don't let me die. If I don't make it another month, I'm just a guilty man without a child. Just got above, see what I see. In the name of Christianity, rise up. Hold on, crawling out of fire, hiding in the woods, let the heavens hear my heart cry. I've got very little time to fight against the devil, mama, please don't let me die. I must rise. And how will I know where I must go? Hold on, crawling out of fire, hiding in the woods, let the heavens hear my heart cry. I've got very little time to fight. Hold on, crawling out of fire, hiding in the woods, let the heavens hear my heart cry. I've got very little time to fight against the devil, mama, please don't let me die.
Making friends was hard enough in middle school, but being a mixed-race Mexican girl in a white neighborhood in the 70s made it harder. One day I rode my bike down the street and this girl hollered, "Get out of my neighborhood, you dirty Mexican." Then I met Mickey, the new white girl on the block, who had no friends either. We bonded instantly. She invited me for sleepovers, and we'd stay up all night watching scary movies and trace stories on each other's backs with our hands. I was so grateful for a friend that when she called me Beaner, I just laughed. She called other Mexicans worse, so I said, "If you hate Mexicans, why do you hang around me?" She said, "You're not like other Mexicans." Mickey was my nickname for her. Her last name started with MC, but really I called her that because she called me Nick Nose. She said Nick was short for the N-word because I had a big nose. I said, "I hate that word." She said, "Oh, it's just a little friendly teasing." So I settled for letting her call me Nicky. And I think that's the thing that cut most, not what she said, but the way I always settled. So as an adult, I tried to pull back from this friendship, but then she accused me of being ungrateful. So I hung in there. Then in 2020, a black friend of mine went on Facebook to say she was tired of the kind of allies who only fight prejudice if they have nothing to lose. I took that to heart. And soon after, Mickey went on Facebook to say she did not believe in systemic racism. And I knew from experience there'd be no talking her out of this. I decided it was time to lose something. I unfriended Mickey because I'm just not Nicky anymore.
Hey everybody, so Ahmad from 1000 Cuts is having some technical difficulties, so I'm going to introduce our next act, which is followed by a 5-minute intermission in which you'll hear a beautiful, beautiful song written just for tonight by Slipnote Music. Our friends at Slipnote Music actually introduced us to this next artist, who you will meet and see in person because he wrote the final song of the final story of the night tonight. But before the intermission, we wanted to share this incredible video with you. This is Taylor Fagins, and it's called We Need More.
You went for a run, 'cause you probably felt free. Ahmad Arbery, your run had an end that nobody could see. Little black boys don't run outside or play with water guns at night. They run away from red and white, blue light. Little black boys don't go to stores or use their pockets anymore. Can someone tell them what they're living for? They want more. Taylor, I bet your sleep felt so peaceful and pure. Oh, Breonna Taylor, your peace was ended by police burglars. Near scared. Their parents feel so unprepared. The world sees black no matter what you wear. So little black boys and girls don't cry. We'll fight to find an alibi so you can go outside and never die. We will try. We will try. We will try. We will try. We will try to run out time. Try to close our eyes. Try to walk the streets and never die. We will try to open doors. Try to go to stores. We'll try to find the light we're living for. We need more. We need more. We need more.
Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead, but it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop.
Why you looking down your nose at me? That ain't the way. Why you getting angry when we don't agree? That ain't the way. Don't you see, just like me, you've got a say. But baby, that ain't the way.
Number one in your life's blueprint should be a deep belief in your own dignity, your own worth, and your own somebodyness.
Why you gotta get all in my space? That ain't the way. Why you shaking your fist in my face? That ain't the way. Humanity makes us the same. So let's find a better way. Look around, everybody wants the same as you. Don't you know that we're all hurting too? Look around, look around. I don't wear the same style shoe as you. You don't know the troubles that I've been through. So set down your crown, meet me on common ground. Look around, everybody wants the same as you. Don't you know that we're all hurting too? Look around, look around. I don't wear the same style shoe as you. You don't know the troubles that I've been through. So set down your crown, meet me on common ground, and take a look around.
I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality.
All the wonder that you see is just as beautiful to me. Live an opportunity, just look around. All the love we need today
shall overcome. This faith can give us courage to face the uncertainties of the future. It will give our tired feet new strength as we continue our forward stride toward the city of freedom. All those to whom truth is beauty, and in whose eyes the beauty of genuine brotherhood, peace, is more precious than diamonds or silver or gold.
Just look around.
China's become a dirty word. The coronavirus is the China virus. It's all China's fault. Thanks, China! My friend in Florida gets hit with a can of beer, sprayed with disinfectant, gets spit on. Go back to China, he's told. Just hearing about this cuts. He's not even Chinese. Like me, he's from South Korea, which, by the way, has been held up as a model for its swift and effective response to COVID-19. But the truth doesn't matter, because when bullies see us, they think China, they think bats and disease, and that the Chinese steal their jobs. They forget the interconnectedness of everything, that our clothes are made in China, that iPhones are made in China. And it doesn't help when Trump talks about China, because he says the word with so much venom, it sounds like a slur. China. He reminds me of all the bullies that I encountered way back in grade school. The kids who once saw my mother drop me off and started making ching-chong noises and called her a dumb chink. I wanted to tell them, first of all, no one has the right to think of my mother as dumb, except for me. Seriously, I wanted to tell them, my mom's a doctor, an obstetrician. She's delivered thousands of babies into the world, maybe even one of you. But even back then, as an 8-year-old, I knew the truth didn't matter, because when bullies see us, they think China, and that we're the source of all of America's problems, and that we should go back to where we came from. And that cuts.
Good evening. I'm Melissa Reeves, and I'm the producer of Melanin Stories Matters and Rise Up. And yeah, white girl, but I have melanin. And we are so grateful for you being here with us. Stephanie and Ahmad, I want to thank you, and all of the artists that we've seen so far. Wow, it's been magical. And thank you for your chats and being here with us. Melanin Stories Matters and Rise Up came to its fruition after we witnessed George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Aubrey Abrams, and many others. And personally, I was just enraged. Like, how can this happen? And then realizing, I've had systemic racism in my own family. My kinfolk in the South made sure that was around. But it doesn't have to be that way. We can rise up and listen to the perspectives of other people who happen to have more melanin than us. And if we can change hearts one story at a time, then we are rising up. Then we are listening to the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So we thank you. We only have a few more acts to go. And then afterwards, you're welcome to join us, please, in the Zoom link. And we're going to have a cast party. And you can meet the cast and we can have a talk back. Unless you're a troll, you are not welcomed. You will get impeached for a second time. However, everyone else, please come with your open hearts, grab a beverage, and let's celebrate the vision of where we want to head. So thank you again. I look forward to the rest of the acts, and may we all have a really great vision together. Thanks.
My first visit to an American cowshed was on an Amish farm, and it was a complete disaster. Now, I'd only been in this country for a few years, and my idea of a farm came from storybooks, wooden stalls, and tin pails. Instead, at 3 a.m. in the morning, I walked in to this concrete shed just ablaze with neon lights and the whooshing of electrical milking machines. And the farmer, whom I'd asked if I could help him milk, he ran the B&B we were staying at, he handed me a broom, which I pushed around and made an utter mess, didn't clean anything. And I finally gave up when I bumped into him for the second time and made him drop all his equipment. And instead of getting annoyed, this sweet man actually apologized to me, and that too with a sweet little namaste. He must have been doing it out of deference for my culture. And I went back to the room and I was moaning to my husband about what an idiot I'd been, reinforcing two stereotypes, the clueless immigrant and the clueless city person, when there was a knock on the door. The farmer's wife showed up with a basket full of apple muffins and said, "Merry Christmas! Oh, I'm so sorry. Is that your religion? Do you celebrate?" And I was so taken aback at how considerate she was. I stammered, well, yes, but it's more about family, not really religion. At which this kind woman's face just crumpled with sadness, and this Orthodox Amish person came up to us, these two immigrants, and said, "Would you like to go visiting with us today? At least you'd be with family. Ours."
I don't know if you really understand what it's like to grow up in an environment where the only measure of your human worth is your physical appearance. Well, that's what it was like where I grew up. It's because I had this peculiar disability. But despite the fact I had this disability, I still managed to have one good friend. The disability we shared in common was called ugliness. He had brown eyes and brown hair, and he had this curious habit of licking his own nuts. Because the guy was an animal. I mean, he was a real animal. He was my dog, Max, and I loved him. And we had this special bond with each other. Despite the fact we had this bond, despite the fact that I loved him so much, despite the fact that we were really close together, one day I came home from school and he ran away. He broke the bonds that held us together and wanted to run off and see the world. And I spent all day looking for him. Every time I would see something, a dog or animal, turn a corner, I would yell out, "Max, Max!" And it wasn't him. And after more than half a day of looking for him, I finally saw him. He was near the exit ramp of the highway. And every time I would call him, he would stop, and he would wag his tail, and he would stick out his tongue. But when I got closer to him, he would run away again, and I would call him, "Max, Max, come here, Max." And he would stop, wag his tail, stick out his tongue, but keep running. And then finally he started running up the exit ramp of the highway, and I yelled out, "Max, Max!" And he ran right up against oncoming traffic, and a car hit him and threw him across the highway. And all of a sudden, to me, it was as if a fog had came down, and I didn't really care or could hear the sound of the cars slamming on brakes, swerving, honking horns. All I wanted to do was get my friend, and I picked him up and put him in my arms. His broken and bloody body, bone was sticking out of his leg. And as I walked him down the exit ramp toward the bottom, every time I would move or jostle a little bit, he would whimper. And I dropped down on my knees at the end of the exit ramp, and I just started to cry, absolutely helpless. But in the proximity of that exit ramp were a lot of office buildings, and people were getting off work. Hundreds and hundreds of well-dressed people, beautiful people, trying to walk around me, being shocked and surprised at this little black kid, this dirty black kid with this bloody and broken dog in his arms. And as I cried and I looked down, I noticed a pair of shoes in front of me. And inside those shoes was a white man. He had a suit. His fingernails were trimmed. He had on a gold watch. He smelled like cologne, a white shirt, a blue tie. His hair was neatly combed. And he looked at me and he said, "What do you need?" And I said, "All I want is to go home with my dog." And he left. I knew he wasn't coming back. And then a car stopped in front of me and the window rolled down. And it was that man. And he said, "Sit in the front seat, put the dog in your lap, and tell me where you want to go." As I gave him directions, he didn't say anything about the street lights being out. He didn't say anything about the groups of guys standing on the corner. He said nothing about the dilapidated buildings. He dropped me off in front of the house, and the last thing he said was, "Good luck with your dog." Well, Max didn't make it. But this event was so important to me, even at that young age. I wanted to make sure that I never forgot it. I wanted to put it in my head in such a way that it would always be there. I wanted to write it, indite it, print it, paint it, stamp it, stain it, hue it, cut it, mark it, engrave it into my consciousness to such a degree that I would never forget that even to this day, when I'm riding in a car, when I'm in any kind of automobile, I'm always looking out the window for a little white boy with a dog trying to get home. While we continue to rise up, because history is not a series of stops and starts. It is all one long continuum to where the future is. Thank you.
Take you home. Tell me where you wanna go, and I'll take you home. I see it in your eyes, the pain that makes you wanna cry, the need to wanna run away. It's okay. I see the way they stare, avoiding you like you're not there, ignoring all of your despair. So unfair. So tell me where you wanna go, and I'll take you home. Tell me where you wanna go, and I'll take Oh, tell me where you wanna go, and I'll take you home. Oh, tell me where you wanna go, and I'll take you home. Oh, I know what it's like to walk through a world that calls you ugly. Trust me, 'cause I said I know what it's like to wanna find a world where no one's hurting. You can trust me, you don't have to run away. So tell me where you wanna go, and I'll take you home. Oh, tell me where you wanna go, and I'll take
Thank you so much to our artists, our musicians, and our storytellers who contributed to tonight's show. Thank you to our partners, Melanin Stories Matter and 1000 Cuts. It was a pleasure producing this with you, and I hope to do it again soon. Thank you very much to Scott Frost, our production manager, for all of that hard work and for making it all work so seamlessly. Thank you so much to our sponsor, Royal Bank of Canada. We could not have done this without you. Thank you for buying a ticket. Our dear audience, thank you to Nicholas and Peven for their great artwork. Please join us in the Zoom after the show where we get to talk with the performers and have a little discussion. It will be so much fun. And thank you once again. And in the immortal words of Dr. King himself, please remember, love is the only force that has the power to transform enemies into friends. Go and spread the love. Good night.
Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop.
Why you looking down your nose at me? That ain't the way. Why you getting angry when we don't agree? That ain't the way. Don't you see, just like me, you've got a say. But baby, that ain't the way.
Number one in your life's blueprint should be a deep belief in your own dignity, your own worth, and your own somebodyness.
Why you gotta get all in my space? That ain't the way. Why you shaking your fist in my face? That ain't the way. Humanity makes us the same. So let's find a better way. Look around, everybody wants the same as you. Don't you know that we're all hurting too? Look around, look around. I don't wear the same style shoe as you. You don't know the troubles that I've been through. So set down your crown, meet me on common ground. Look around, everybody wants the same as you. Don't you know that we're all hurting too? Look around, look around. I don't wear the same style shoe as you. You don't know the troubles that I've been through. So set down your crown, meet me on common ground, and take a look around.
I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality.
All the wonder that you see is just as beautiful to me. Live an opportunity, just look around. All the love we need today, all the joy we'll find a way. Every heart can have a say, just look around.
We shall overcome. This faith can give us courage to face the uncertainties of the future. It will give our tired feet new strength as we continue our forward stride toward the city of freedom. All those to whom truth is beauty, and in whose eyes the beauty of genuine brotherhood, peace, is more precious than diamonds or silver or gold.
Just look around, just look around, just look around. Just look around, just look around, just look around. Just look around, just look around, just look around. Just look around, just look around, just look around.